What's up, guys? Specstar here today with a debut game from the Utah Jazztrodon. By the way, before I get into anything, I just want to give a shout out to Muse the Best. He gave me this logo and I think it was pretty awesome, so I thought now it's my time to debut the team. So here I am for the first battle of Brawl for All, and I'm going up against Turbo, and I put a lot of thought into this build because not only is this the toughest team matchup I had in my pool, but it's also probably the toughest opponent I have in my pool. And for those who don't know, Turbo's a very good player. If I remember, I should have a link to his account in my description. I would recommend you guys check it out. He definitely knows what he's doing around the league scene. So I got a pretty unorthodox team, and that's because with the matchup, I had to get pretty creative because my team had a hard time dealing with Charizard and had a tough time dealing with Thundurus and Suicune. So I had to think a little bit outside the box to make sure I could handle this well. And let's just dive into my sets here. Now, the first thing I have here is my Charizard, and it's going to be mostly specially defensive with enough speed to outrun Tyranitar. And it's going to be Will-O-Wisp, of course, for Tar, for Donphan, to make sure I can really kind of set up on anything, because I'm especially defensive with Wisp, Swords Dance, Roost, and Dragon Claw, and he didn't have a Fairy type, so Dragon Claw was pretty much good to hit everything on his team. And this set really had the potential to be effective, and it was nice that it had a little bit of potential to be able to set up on and hit Suicune. My next set is Mew, and I was timid, max speed, max HP with Will-O-Wisp, of course, largely for the Tar, among other things. I brought Wisp from both these Pokemon because it was very crucial for me to be able to whittle down his team, kind of set things up for myself with Zard and other things. I had Rock Slide because I was really worried about his Charizard, and I needed to be able to hit it to make sure that it could not get free switch-ins on anything, because I had such a difficulty switching in on his Charizard that I just had to make sure that in a trade-off I could not give him free switch-ins. So I made sure to have the ability to hit it on a lot of things. I also had Roost, of course. Next I have Clefable, and I'm specially defensive with Wish, Protect, Moonblast, and Calm Mind. And I thought Calm Mind had a great deal of potential on his team. A lot of the physical attackers he did have, like Tar and Donphan, they didn't love coming in on this thing, so I was pretty good throwing off Moonblast. I knew that if I was especially defensive, I would have had the potential to possibly set up on things like Thundurus or Charizard. Although I didn't take their hits too well, I could take a hit in normal, Calm Mind up, and then take another hit at +1. So I ran specially defensive Calm Mind for that because I knew if I started getting Calm Minds up, it might be a little annoying for him to deal with that. Now, I talked a little bit about how hard it is for me switching to Charizard, and that's where Hydreigon came in. I went with especially defensive Assault Vest Hydreigon, and it wasn't completely specially defensive at all. I had, I believe, speed for T-Tar, and then I had a little bit of attack investment, and then I invested it so that I could take 2 Focus Blasts 100% from Charizard. This was the closest thing to a Zard switch I had, and I had Rock Slide, Superpower, Outrage, and Dragon Rush. And the reason I went with Dragon Rush is just because, based on matchup, there wasn't really another move I needed on this, and I wanted to be able to have a Dragon move I could click that didn't lock me in for 3 turns. So that explains that. And then I've got an Assault Vest Amoonguss with Seed Bomb, Sludge Bomb, Hidden Power Rock, because I never want to give Zard free switch-ins. And I had Giga Drain, which was just a filler move. There wasn't really a 4th move I wanted to put on this Pokemon. There's nothing I would have wanted to foul play. There was nothing I needed Stomping Tantrum for, so I thought the ability to just get a little heal up was better than nothing. And he also didn't have much for knockoff. I mean, he could have potentially had it on Donphan and Thundurus, but I would have thought Thundurus would have been a Sludge Wave, probably Nasty Plot variant. So I didn't bother prepping too much for that possibility. And then my last Pokemon is Rhyperior, which is just boilerplate, physically defensive, toxic, stealth rock, and dual stab. So let's dive into this replay here. Just gonna move it on slow. He leads off with T-Tar here, and I could have been fearing a Scarf Crunch, but I also have to fear Band Pursuit, so I thought my safest play was just to stay in and click Will-O-Wisp. And it does show that we're faster than it, so it's not Scarf, and then we learn from the Stone Edge damage he's probably Jolly Band, so with that I decide here that I'm just going to double Wisp because he probably doesn't want to stay in, but he decides to go in his Zard here. And as I mentioned before, my Mew is max speed Rock Slide, so I see here's my chance to potentially get right rid of the Charizard right here, and it's probably a speed tie, and I think it's just 100% worth it for me to click Rock Slide here. And see what happens here. He does Mega Evolve, and we win the speed tie, and Rock Slide knocks it out. So that turn is huge for me because I worried so much about Charizard. It was just the biggest problem for me to deal with. And of course, he wasn't expecting me to be Wisp and max speed. So, you know, the element of surprise can be really big in a battle, but again, I just really didn't want to give Charizard any free switch-ins on anything. So, here I go into Hydreigon because I knew he would have to Crunch it, because Crunch would 2-hit KO my Mew, and nothing else would, so I thought he had to go for Crunch there, and I no longer needed health on Hydreigon since Charizard got weakened. Here I go for Dragon Rush because it's just my best move for everything, and I didn't want to lock into Outrage at all. And I get a little bit of damage and find that Suicune's physically defensive, which is good to know. My initial in on Suicune's always Mew. I need the taunt for it. So he goes for Sub, and I'm just going to taunt him. As the turns are going a little bit too slow, maybe. We will taunt him here, and we're going to see that he's going to want to go for Toxic. And frankly, I almost wish that Toxic would have been able to land on Mew because I would have synchronized it back. Substitute does not protect from Synchronize, so I would have got this thing poisoned, been able to whittle it down. And it also would have protected me from this Ice Beam freeze, so here I was scrambling because I knew Suicune was annoying for me to deal with, and I'm just going to go into Moongus. And we do not get frozen that time. I'm going to go for a Seed Bomb, just because it would break his sub even if he did reveal to have Calm Mind here, and I didn't know for sure if he had Calm Mind. Him going for Ice Beam right there tells me he's probably not Calm Mind, so I don't know what his last move is, but I believe it's not that. And he brings Thundurus here on Amoonguss, and Amoonguss definitely deals with a special Thundurus, which I thought it would be, but him bringing in Thundurus here kind of made me panic a little bit. I thought the only reason he would bring Thundurus in on Amoonguss would be if it had Sky Strike, so I just wanted to make the Scout for that, and I went into my Rhyperior as he decides to bring in his Tyranitar. So that actually worked out really well for me. I just wanted to rule out Sky Strike. And he shows Aqua Tail, which was a pretty interesting bring, and here I just want to get up my rocks. And here I was just wanting to Earthquake the Tyranitar to get rid of it. He goes into Thundurus, and I definitely had a sneaking suspicion that this thing would be a Grass Knot. Even in prep, I was ready expecting this thing to be Grass Knot. So I'm going to go into Amoonguss to scout for that, and he goes right for a Volt Switch. So that tells us he probably is special, but that doesn't mean my fear of Sky Strike are completely out the window, because it's definitely not impossible for the thing to be mixed. We get a Amoonguss in on Tar, and I'm just going to go for a Giga Drain. All around decent play there, covered really anything, and here I'm just wanting to go for a Sludge Bomb. I do not want to mess around too much with this. I don't want to play around with it continuing to sub or getting a Swords Dance or anything, so I'm just going to continue Sludge Bombing it as he goes back into Tar here. And I'm going to take this opportunity, to go right back to Rhyperior, and he misses a Stone Edge, annoyingly for him. And here I'm just going to fire off a Toxic because I'm thinking that he's probably going to switch here. But it additionally was a possibility that he's just ready to let T-Tar going. It wasn't really doing too much anymore, so now I'm just Earthquaking, thinking that he's ready to sack it, and he misses another Stone Edge, which he doesn't get the chip, and that's of course going to be annoying for him. So here he's going to go into Leafeon, and the fact that he didn't show a Z move makes me think I'm safe to go out into a Mungus here, as he goes for Substitute, and again I'm just going to click Sludge Bomb to break his sub. And he shows Sword Stance, and my thought process here was the way he's played it, he's definitely got something to hit a Mungus, and I just wanted to sack Mew because it's frozen and it wasn't going to do me any good anymore. So we know it has Sky Strike, which is Aerial Ace. It also has Sword Stance and Substitute, so it either can touch Charizard or it can touch Rhyperior, and I want to find out which. I went into a Mungus there because somehow I got the stupid idea that it was Bounce. I've definitely seen this thing with Aerial Ace before, but it's definitely not something you see every day, so that just kind of slipped my mind there. And here I'm just going to go back into a Mungus because I want to find out if Leaf Blade is its last move, and I do find out that Leaf Blade's the last move. So I know now that Charizard's going to wall it, and I'm ready to just sack Rhyperior so I can get Charizard in on it. Because with T-Tar down, and he didn't bring something else that I had this for, which is slipping my mind, but with neither of those Pokemon here and alive, I knew I did not need a Rhyperior anymore, so I was willing to sack it to bring in my Charizard. And I'm going to stay in regular form just to potentially create a 50-50 if it comes up with Thundurus or Donphan. And here I'm going to Mega and Wisp because it's just my safest move. Donphan shouldn't be able to break us after a Wisp, but just in case it could, I decided to switch out into my Clefable here, which I know will be able to wall it. And he just goes for the Earthquake, and it's not doing enough, so I'm able here to start setting up Calm Minds, which potentially puts this game in position for Clefable to start ending it. And here I'm just going to Wish Up to get this thing healthy, and he makes the correct play of not leaving Donphan in on it, and he goes into Thundurus. And I'm just going to go for a Protect here because after a Protect, I'm unaware, so I don't have to worry about him nasty plotting up. And after I Protect and get my Wish, I know that Sludge Wave probably will not KO me even through a crit, so I needed that up, and I didn't want to play around with repeated chances to get crits, so I'm just going to go for a Moonblast here instead of trying to set up more. That was just not a game I wanted to play. I wanted to start trying to take away all the conditions where he won. That's what I'm doing here. He brings in Suicune, and I just want to start throwing off Moonblast. I'm not playing any games with this Pokemon. I knew I could break its sub because I saw it was physically defensive, and it needed a lot of specially defensive investment for Moonblast here not to break its sub. So I'm just going to keep throwing off Moonblast, and we believe that he's probably not Rest in the last move, based on his other 3 moves, and he does confirm that by showing Protect. So again, I'm gonna keep clicking Moonblast, ultimately just the safest play. And he goes into Donphan here, so I'm start thinking about how could I potentially lose, and I wanted to make sure that I never let Suicune get more health up. So I decide here that I'm gonna go into Hydreigon on what's likely an Earthquake, because I know Hydreigon's going to be able to take out Donphan, and then it's going to be able to take out Suicune. So I'm going to land the Rock Slide and take out the Donphan, and he's going to be down to 5%, and I'm just going to be able to click Outrage here. So we will take out the Suicune here, and the Jazztrodons are going to start off 1-0 and win their debut game. I was very relieved to have won this game because out of the 4 opponents I had, this was the game I was the least secure about winning, and I had to put a lot of thought process into my prepping and it really did pay off here in a big way. So definitely GG to the opponent. As I mentioned, I should have his channel in the description. He's a very good player. I recommend checking out his stuff. And I want to thank you guys for watching. Have yourselves a good night.